Welcome back, everybody, to Light Talk, where everyday people can share their spiritual journey experiences with a safe and supportive community. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or knows anyone that has stories that would like to tell, please email lighttalk423@gmail.com. While you're at it, click on your like, subscribe, and share buttons. All right, excellent. Let's get down to the stories. Today we have Josh Rutledge. Welcome, Josh. I'm glad to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be here. Fantastic.
Awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Let's see. As far as, I'm middle age, 45. I've got two kids and a wife, kind of the normal kind of family mundane stuff. And then on top of that, in 2019, kind of my spiritual path or journey began. Um, I had a dream that led to some other things that uh pretty much got me to where I am now as a podcaster as well. Um and Had a couple of different shows that I've done over the years, but really all around doing kind of the same thing you're doing, in that giving people an opportunity to share their experiences, because I think that's the only way we'll ever really lift the taboo that's around this whole topic, is if we
Exactly.
continually talk about it. So
Yeah, that's part of my goal for this is just getting it out in the open and letting people know it's there. It's not a joke. It's not taboo. It's there. It's
yeah.
really happening.
Yep, and I mean, I know that a lot of people probably have experiences and they're scared to talk about them or to share them with other people. And so, your show, my show, and others like them, give people an opportunity to know that they're not alone and it's okay to talk about these things. So, my specific experience, though, I'll just kind of start at the beginning, if that's okay with you.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. So, going all the way back to when I was a kid. Um, I had, based on some stories and some memories, but some stories that I've been given from my family. I had some psychic gifts when I was a kid, and I grew up in a very strict religious household, and so a lot of those gifts were kind of, tap down, and not really encouraged to use, just because of the people that me and my parents and others that I was raised with, they didn't understand what they were, and there was some regard as maybe being demonic in nature and all of that kind of stuff. And so basically, from the time of about maybe 7 or 8 on, I really didn't understand my gifts. I would say that they were always there and I've always used them. It's kind of like, once you learn how to breathe, you don't have to think about breathing. It just happens, kind of naturally for you. And I think that that's true for people who have kind of natural, intuitive or psychic gifts. Once they kind of get turned on and used, you don't think about using them, but you also don't really acknowledge that they're there. So, anyways, when I was in high school, I got really big into church because I thought, well, this is where, my family wants me to be. And so I'll put everything that I have into it. And I was quickly identified as, like, the term that was used then was a prayer warrior, but basically, I would put my attention on things and they would happen, like manifesting, I guess, in a way.
Yep.
Um, and again, didn't really understand the context of manifestation or any of that kind of stuff. And so I just put it in the context of what I was being raised within, and thought, well, this is a good thing. I'm doing this and people are getting excited and all of this kind of stuff. And so it's good. Um, then when I graduated high school and I left my parents' house, I really started to explore other things, and look at the world, and not strictly through that narrow lens that I had previously looked at it through. Um, and but still, it even took me until I was 41 years old before I finally had um, an experience that was too bizarre for my rational brain to explain away. And so the gist of it is, I was about a week out from starting to record a podcast with a very good friend of mine. It was called FearScape Paranormal, and it was going to be looking at primarily ghosts and cases, casework. um, but I was about a week out. I had a dream one night. Um, and it was the kind of dream that when you wake up from it, you're pretty sure that was a memory. It felt so real. And in the way that I think about it and describe it to others is I remember the smells in the air, the wind on my face, things about it that typically you don't recall when it's a dream situation. So in this memory that uh, that occurred to me at night while I was sleeping, um, I was standing at my grandparents' farm, which when I was a kid I spent a lot of time at, so that would have been natural. I was about, I think maybe 11 or 12 is kind of the age range that I get from the memory. But I'm standing there holding the hand of an entity while a UFO hovers in the sky above me. And the image of that UFO is kind of almost burned into my retina of I could draw it now if I needed to. I'm not a very good artist, but I could draw it. And um I later found out much further down the road, um another UFO case of the same type of craft. And so I'll get to that in a moment. But um, this entity kind of said to me in a non-speaking kind of way, Josh, you're a hybrid, and so you're going to have a very interesting life. And I woke up that morning, or whatever came. My body woke up, let's say, and I began to kind of start processing what that meant. And over the next, for from 41 to so almost for the next 4 years, almost three and a half, let's say, I really rebelled against what it meant to be a hybrid. I'm a big sci-fi person, and so when I heard hybrid, I thought genetic hybridization. And I know there's a lot of discussion from people who are in the community who have either been a part of, or uh, maybe a benefit from, or just part of the genetic hybridization program from extraterrestrials. That's one of the, I think, prevailing ideas of why extraterrestrials are here in the first place.
Okay.
Um, but I really like the genetic hybridization piece didn't sit well with me, and so I kind of railed against it on my own, while though I was continuing to kind of explore this path that I was on. And so, because of the podcast and because of just the way that I am and constantly seeking knowledge, I read a lot of case information. I read a lot of books. I A lot of it research for the podcast, some of it research of my own, formulated a lot of thoughts and theories, and so that put me in a unique position to be able to cross reference things that I would encounter later on in my journey. And so, I had a couple of experiences. Like, I went on a spirit investigation with some friends and had an amazing experience involving some dowsing rods, where I really just felt these things cross in front of me and point to me, as I felt this big surge of energy coming through me, and
Oh, wow.
almost coming out of the top. Like, I felt it coming, like I felt it start at my feet, come all the way up my body, and come out of the top of my head. And this was all during the time when we were trying to help a spirit kind of cross over to the other side, if you will. And so I really felt like I was being that conduit of motivation or movement for that spirit.
Oh, awesome.
Um, then in May of 2020, I saw a UFO, and that forever changed my life. So I was in my backyard in Kentucky. A really good friend of mine, the same friend that was doing the podcast with me. It was around, I was getting confused. Memorial Day is in May, I believe, right? That's
I
okay.
get them confused too.
Um, so it was around Memorial Day holiday. I don't remember if it was the same weekend or, but it was close. And we were sitting outside. It was a beautiful night, hardly any clouds in the sky. Um, and we saw this light kind of tracking across the sky, looking to the east. It was lower on the horizon, maybe at about 10 to 20 degrees off the horizon. And it had like a way about it where it would flash, but it wasn't like a flash, like a pulse flash. It was like a lighthouse light as it comes around, it gets brighter
Uh-huh.
and then it gets dimmer if you kind of imagine what I'm
Oh,
thinking
okay.
about. So, and what was really odd is my friend had a green laser pointer, and so we're always very cautious about pointing that at anything in the sky because you don't ever want to hit a plane or anything else.
Oh, right.
But we would point it in front of it. So it wasn't at it, but it was kind of in front of its track of motion. And every time we would do that, it would do that signaling motion back to us.
Oh, cool.
So we kind of watched it and tracked it, and it was flying towards the north, and then all this, and then it kind of, I don't think it disappeared. It flew beyond our range of view. There was some tall trees and stuff in the area. So we kind of stood in that same position, watching that same area to see if it would come back. My friend happens to just glance over his shoulder, and behind us in the sky above a really tall oak tree is this bright light. And we both turned and watch it. And it sits there watching us watching it for about 10 seconds. And then it shoots straight up in the sky and leaves like a little trail behind it. And then it's gone.
Wow. I had something similar to that on my way into work. Um, I was looking out towards the north, and I had like just a flash of light, like flash, 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 like five of them just above the horizon. Like in my background, you see the light pole right there.
Yep.
That's about how high it was, maybe a
Mm.
touch higher, and it was just five flashes, and it was gone.
Mm.
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm a rather sciency kind of person, and so even when, all of the experiences that I had in the beginning, um, I tried to find rational explanations for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what I have since come up with is that these things that happen for us. Like we are the audience, if you
Yeah.
will, for the experiment or for the event. And so um the reason that they happen for us, I think, is still under a lot of debate or whatever. My personal uh expectation or exam or reason is that they are here as the track shifts on the railroad track, right? So they're here because we're traveling along on the path that we're on in life. Um, and maybe the path that we're on is not the optimal path for us. And so these experiences happen, which causes us to think about the nature of our reality, right? These things happen that we just can't rationalize and can't explain. It causes us to really think, what is this life and what am I doing here? And those thoughts may shift us back over onto that optimal track. And so for me, my experiences um, kind of ramped up to what I would consider the UFO sighting. And then my UFO sightings kind of dwindled off, and the experience changed into more psychic contact and channeling and figures in my room and things like that. But I envision it as it was a drop off in activity, but really it was just a shift, a what's the word I'm looking for? An evolution in the activity that I was having. And so, again, using that thought process of these things happen because we're on a track and they're trying to divert us, um, then continued activity would basically be to reassure you that, okay, yep, now you're moving right along. We're going to continually reassure you and be with you as you kind of go through your personal growth. And so, people who have the same experience over and over and over again, I would say it's because they're knocking, but you're not answering the door. So your
I can
experience
see
doesn't
that.
evolve, right?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So I talk to a lot of people that say that they have the same experience over and over and over again, and I ask them, well, what changed in your life after you heard the first or second or third experience? Excuse me. And they they just say, well, nothing changed. I didn't change anything I was doing. Well, then that's why you continue to have them. So, um, so I had that experience with the UFO. Like I said, it changed after that. Um, I found that I was able to communicate telepathically with some entities. I received some information via that mechanism, which later was kind of confirmed for me via some books that I was reading by Dolores Cannon, and some other books that I was reading by other people. And so I would have these, I would get these images or ideas of um, the way the world was structured, or the way the universe was structured, or the origin of life, or whatever the case may be. And then I would listen to a Dolores Cannon book, and one of her sessions the person would describe exactly what I had received. And so I felt
Oh
like that
wow.
was that confirmation, right? That, yep, this stuff is real. And here's an example why it's real, right? So
Yeah. So backing up a little bit, when you first saw the entity and you were holding the hands and looking up at the UFO, do you recall what that entity looked like?
at the time that I had that recollection, I could not see the entity's face.
Okay.
I then did some about maybe 8 months later, I did some work with a really good friend, some guided meditation work to try to retrieve that information. And what I have retrieved is that it was basically a star field. It looked like a deep space. I mean, as the entity's face. It was just space.
Okay.
So it
I've
didn't
recently
have any
heard that.
form the way we would think about a face.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. And
Okay.
I've since talked to other people who also receive messages and have seen entities like that. And so again, that kind of validation back to me that those are legitimate things. So
Yeah. All right. That's really cool. I mean, it's something different to see. I mean, it you can't imagine.
yeah.
It's hard to imagine if you haven't seen it yet.
Well, and I kind of teased that the craft that I saw, um, I later found I mean, before I give you the before I give you I my wife and I had been looking to move. We decided on moving to Phoenix, Arizona,
Okay.
from Kentucky. We were in Kentucky at the time. And it helped out that my good friend that I was doing the podcast with, him and his wife had recently moved here. Um, and so we would know some people, in the area. And so we decided to move. So been here now for almost 2 years and loving every minute of it. It's a little bit difficult sometimes with young kids and not having family around, but we're figuring it
Yeah.
out.
Oh, good.
But there was a 1947 UFO sighting here in Phoenix,
Yes.
and it actually predates the Roswell incident in New Mexico. And that craft that is in the picture, and I don't have it to show you, but the craft that's in the picture is the exact craft that I saw hovering over me in my recollection. And so anybody who looks up 1947 Phoenix, Arizona UFO, and you see that craft, that's the craft that I saw.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So, I felt really drawn to be here. And then it turns out that the craft from my recollection is the craft that was here. So, um, you know, I think that if I could kind of, as anybody who's having kind of a spiritual journey that they're on right now, is that there are guideposts along the way that will let you know that you're on the right track. And it isn't always as obvious as someone walking up and saying, you're on the right track, right?
No, it's not.
but but there are these little synchronicities, right, that pop up here and there. And what's really funny is synchronicity is a very psychological term. Carl Jung coined the term. And so um, to take something that is very scientific in nature and a synchronicity and apply it to our space, which is often considered not very scientific in nature, I think gives the experiences that we're all having a lot of credence. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I would just say be on the lookout. If you're trying to make a decision on, whether or not to take a new job, and you see a cloud formation that looks like, I don't know, an airplane or a bird, that has to do with movement, with mobility. So maybe take that as a sign that you do need to take a new job. But obviously ask yourself what that sign might mean to you. But the bottom line is that I have seen things. I've received a message that someone would be watching over me, and they would come to me in the form of an elephant. The first week that we moved here, I was walking to the mailbox, and when I walked back to my house, sitting in the sky was a cloud that resembled Babar the elephant. So I mean, there are signs that happen every day, all the time, to
Yeah.
reassure you that you're on the right track, and there are signs that happen all the time when you're not on the right track and you need to shift. It's all about guiding us to reaching the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, recently I've been having a lot of angel numbers being shown to me, and it's so many that it took me a while to kind of, okay, I need to comprehend and see what some of these are talking about, because it's different numbers and then different orders and stuff like that, but it's always the same, like four numbers, like 2 2 here and 3 3,
Yeah.
or 3 2 3, or 3 4 3, or
Mm-hmm.
4 5 4, or it's all in all. So it's hard to kind of, okay, all together, what is the message? you
Right.
know but I have to tell this story just because it's fresh on my mind here.
Okay.
A week ago, but it was my mom's birthday. It would have been my mom's birthday. And so I asked her, I go, Mom, if you're around me, give me a sign of a birthday cake or a birthday candle or something like that so they know you're around so I can wish you a happy birthday. And about 20 or so minutes later, I'm flipping through, getting my contacts and, doing all my phone stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I flip it, and here's this great big birthday cake
Mm.
with fairies on it. And it was like, all right, happy birthday, Mom. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, today would have been a year that she's passed. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try it again. Okay, Mom. At this time, which is funny because the two twos are in
Mm-hmm.
there. 922 is when she passed today, this morning, a year ago. And I'm like, okay, at 9:22 this morning, Mom, give me some sort of sign. Nothing. So I don't think she really wanted me to really have fun or acknowledge that or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that birthday cake was really cool to get that confirmation. It was so awesome.
I think that too. I mean, I've figured out that the there's an element of trust and belief that what you're experiencing is real. And so, like, I was one that constantly asked for confirmation. Hey, if there's somebody here, blink the lights. If there's somebody here, move this quarter. If you know, so
Right.
and really what I realized is that I was asking confirmation because I couldn't believe that it was possible, or I couldn't believe that it was true. And when I realized is when I finally accepted that it was possible and it was true, and belief fell away and knowing replaced it. I've had more experiences from that point forward than I've ever had prior. It's a
Okay.
need to trust yourself and trust that what you're receiving is valid.
Good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Good way to look at it. Yeah. So in other words,
Um
I need to practice more. Trust myself. Trust the universe.
right. I mean it's obviously don't go blindly into the night, but you know, it's okay to accept that it's happening and then think about what it means to you, what it means for you, right? What does this message mean for me? Does it mean that, blah, 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 whatever you're thinking about. So, um, but it's all contextually related somehow. And so thinking about what that means to you now and what it could mean to you sometime in the future. So,
All right. Something for me to ponder. Excellent. Thank you.
yeah,
As you can tell, I'm still learning. I'm still on my journey to figure this stuff out. Yeah,
we're
we're
all at
all
different
on it.
stages
Yeah,
of the journey, right?
that's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Wow, that's so cool. So, tell me a little bit more about your channeling. How are we on
Yeah.
time?
Now I've got a few minutes.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, the like I said before, the after my UFO sighting, I started kind of receiving. It was more like a conversation. I would connect with an entity, and I would ask questions, and it would provide answers. And the best way that I can describe it as is it it feels different to me. I don't know how to. I, I am receiving some messages from somewhere else telepathically. I don't there's no good analogy that I can come up with that um well, I guess maybe if I was a bowl of water from a lake and what I'm receiving is droplets of water from the ocean, right? So it's still water, but it's a different composition of water. And so it still feels like it belongs there, but there also is something different about it to where I can understand and identify that difference. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And so I went through my channeling moment of trying to think about at that point in time, I had exposure to channeling folks such as like Debs Shakti, Daryl Anka, who most people know is the channel for Bashar. Um, the person who was the channel for Ra, I can't think of her name, but back in the 70s, I
Yeah,
can't remember her name, but
I can't either.
but in almost all of those cases, they kind of go into a trance, and then the channel comes through, and when the channel's over, then we get that person back. And so that was the way I thought the channel was supposed to be, that channel relationship.
Hmm.
But it didn't work well for me when I tried to do it that way. And so it really they continually wanted to just have a conversation with me. And so it's only when I realized that that's what it is. It's a conversation. It's I'm asking questions, they're giving answers, or sometimes they're asking questions and I'm giving answers, but it's a conversation between two parties. And so that doesn't translate often very well in a channel sitting for a channel type situation where I don't just I don't go away and I'm replaced with an entity. Instead, what you're getting is some of my thoughts, some of their thoughts, and some combination of the two. And so it's more of the way I think about it now is it's more of like I've tuned into that station and I just keep that station tuned in all the time. And so now when I'm speaking, it may be my direct thoughts or it may be influenced from something from that open channel.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Okay.
my voice doesn't change. My sometimes my cadence changes when I'm talking with an entity. When they're talking, my cadence changes. But for the most part, it's just an open mic, so to speak. And whatever wants to speak steps in front of it and starts talking.
And that makes sense as how that works. That makes sense. Well, our time is there.
It's gone by so
I
fast.
know it always does. I need to get this going longer, I think. But anyways, I want to thank you so much, Josh, for being on here with me, and I know we have more to talk about.
For sure. For
It's
sure.
so much to talk about. So, maybe we can have you on again sometime, and
Oh yeah. Love
what
to
we can
come
do.
back.
Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. So, thank you again. Appreciate you being here with me and telling us your stories. And anybody else out there listening, and you have a story or have know someone that has stories that you think they would be great for the podcast, send them my way. So, have them email lighttalk423@gmail.com. And we'll close for now. Thank you, Josh, and we'll
All
see
right.
you later.
All right. Bye
All right,
now.
bye.